Alright, so welcome to week 2. Last week was just more or less an intro to Mudbox. This week what we're going to do is start working on the humanoid character. So you should be doing this with your own design, or you may use the same design, doesn't really matter, but that's what I'm going to do. So, first thing you should do is just make a folder, and I just made a folder and I just called it Wolverine, whatever example model. Then inside of that folder, I want you to make reference images. I said ref images folder, and then we're going to save our Mudbox files right inside of here. Okay, that's basically the goal. But I put a bunch of pictures in here, and it's basically just reference images. So one I have, which I'll be using more later on when we do like the final sculpting, but I would grab a whole bunch of different images. So this is just one over here. Hang on a second. Come on, open up. You can do it. This is just an Alex Ross painting. I don't know if you're familiar with Alex Ross, but he does like realistic superhero, like with gouache generally. Which gouache is kind of like it's like halfway between like watercolor and acrylic, I guess you would say maybe. Anyway, the guy, he uses like poses of real people, and then he makes them look like this, and they're really awesome. So you should look up his work. Super cool stuff. Anyway. This is I'm going to use for more for later on. But so get like a bunch of stuff, even if it's not, like this isn't 100% what I'm using. But I also found these, and I would suggest something like this as well, is that I got a back view. I don't care as much about that, but you want to get, if you can get like a front view and a side view of your character, or if you could draw your character in a front or side view, like that would be awesome, because that's going to help a lot in a little bit. So even if it's not perfect, just something like that would be helpful. This is nice and orthographic. These are very flat. So these will be pretty good. And then they actually came in like this, and I just cut it up into multiples. Okay, so when that is done, we're just going to go ahead and open up Mudbox. Now in here what we could do is we could start from scratch, but I don't really want to do that. Instead what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and I'm just going to start with the human body that's already in here, okay? Now, this is supposed to be a realistic human, so the regular human body should work. Even if you're doing a dwarf or an elf or what have you, just squash and stretch this body in order to make it fit your thing. It's easier than trying to make it from scratch. It's just, it becomes too much. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose the human body. And it's going to give me a model, which is fantabulous. And what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of set this scene up. We're going to set it up for sculpting, basically. So I'm just going to bring in my images. I'm going to hook them up in different views and make it a little bit easier to work with, okay? So first things first, let's go ahead and in my perspective view, I'm just going to expand it, and then I'm just going to go to the image plane. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to click on image plane here. It's going to show up here. I'm going to hit import, and then I'm going to navigate to my images, and I'm just going to use this one as my my reference image for this one. And this is just going to be one that I look at while I'm sculpting. Honestly, this is not very useful because it's a pretty bad pose. This is semi-useful, but just to get you an idea of how it works, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to take my depth, and I'm going to go all the way up. If for some reason it doesn't let you, just type in 1,000. 1,000 is probably good enough. That should be far enough away. Then I'm going to go to transform, and I just want to scale it down. It's pretty big, so I'm going to do like, let's say 0.5. How big is that? Yeah, we'll do 0.5 by 0.5. And actually, hang on a second. Looks like that's a little bit too small. 0.75. Make sure you keep it proportionally the same. So we'll go with 0.75. Once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to click on it up here again. I'm going to hold E and middle mouse button click and just drag it up to the corner. Okay. This is just here for me to use as reference while I'm sculpting. And that will just stick there, and as I rotate and do what have you. Oops, let's stay on sculpting tools just a little bit. That will be over in the corner, and that's all fine and dandy, and that's great. I'm just going to go ahead and turn off my, I'm going to go to display and turn off my grid. It's not particularly helpful in this instance. Great. And I'm just going to set up for my other views as well. I don't have a top view. If you do have a top view, that's great. They're not generally super useful, but I do have a side and front view, so I'm actually going to use these as a guide as well. So I'm going to go, let's say, to the side view, open this up, click on the image plane, go ahead and turn that on, and we'll import, and I'm going to grab my side image. There's my side, hit open, and now it's in there. Now you might notice we don't see it, and the reason why is it's locked to my side view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to this, I'm going to right click on it, and we're going to look through. There we go. So you right click on it and then look through. Now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go ahead and position this a little bit better. So I'm going to click back on my image plane here. And you can see it here. I'm just going to go ahead and take the depth and push it behind my character so I can see my character. I want to make my character roughly the size that I want. Okay, so we'll say, like when I'm trying to do the adjustments, I'm going to say that looks good. Okay, so now that I got this in a kind of good way, you'll notice you can't rotate. You can pan and you can zoom in and out in this view, but you won't be able to rotate because this is a side orthographic view, which means there's no singular point, one point perspective in this. Okay, so that looks fine and dandy. So now what I'm going to do is with the image plane selected here, I'm just going to go ahead and take the depth and we'll put it back again. This time, what I'm going to do is make sure I select the image plane, and I'm going to hit E and right click. Oh, that's moving it. That's not what I was hoping for. Middle will move. Left will probably rotate, right? Yeah, I don't want to rotate it. That kind of stinks that that's not working. Okay, so I'm going to have to scale this manually. So you see it's basically 1 by 0.167. So I'm going to scale this up until I get to, you know what, be easier actually? Let's just do it to the model. I'm going to zoom this model back a little bit till that's kind of close to the same size. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the visibility way down. So you're going to see it's going to be slightly over it so I can see through the image and I can see the model itself. Okay? And that way I can use this in a second to try to help position my character, kind of help to scale my character accordingly, right? I could also do something, maybe it'd be easier even just to put this to the side, or not this one, sorry. I could grab the image plane if you prefer. Hold E. Hold E and middle mouse button. Maybe just move it to the side. And I can just use that as a guide and then just kind of match them up like that. But I'm going to put the visibility down just a little bit because I feel like it's a little bit not as much in my face since I'm going to keep it near the center. And then I'm just going to try and position this guy's feet roughly in the same spot. So you can see it's a little bit too tall. Wolverine's shorter. So we're going to call that good. And then what I'm going to do so that I can use this, instead of having to right click on this every time, I'm actually going to save a camera bookmark. So just, you'll see camera bookmark. I'm going to click on this and we're going to say add bookmark. And it's going to ask, and I'll just say side ref. Okay? Good. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing to the front. I'm going to right click on it, look through, and I'm just going to try and position this a little bit better so he's more in the middle here. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to expand it. I'm going to select the image plane. I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to go ahead and import. I'm going to grab my front camera, or my front picture, hit open. There it is. That looks good. I'm going to hit E and move it over to the side so it's out of the way. So I'm holding E and middle mouse button, click and dragging. And I'm going to take the visibility down a whole bunch, just so, again, it's not like in my face. And we'll call that good. So now what I'm going to do is just go ahead and do the same thing as before. I'm going to click on this, add camera bookmark, and we'll call this front. Is that what I called it before? Did I call it back ref, or did I call it ref front? No, I don't remember what I called it. Whatever it is, call it the same as last time. It's either ref front or back. I think it was ref. Let's do it this way. Ref front. Okay? And we'll hit OK. Okay. Now what I want to do is this. I'm going to go up to the top. I'm going to click on perspective. I'm going to right click on it and go look through selected. Okay. So now what I can do is when I want to look at the side or front view, I can click on this and it'll snap to this view. And even if I do I moved over here, if I click on this, it'll snap back to it. So I can always get back by just clicking on it. And if I want to do this view, I can do this view. Let's make another one for perspective. So I'm going to right click and look through selected just so I can get back to it. And we'll just do, doesn't really matter, we'll just do kind of a 3/4 view so that it's like a good look. Okay, and then I'm going to click on this, and we'll add a camera view, and we'll just call it regular perspective. It's not really reference. And we'll hit OK. So now I can just click on this, or this, and get back to wherever I'm trying to get to, and I can quickly toggle back and forth and what have you between the views, and I can see my references and make sure that they are good to go. One of the things you're going to want to do is just make sure that these pictures are all the same size, just so that you're not dealing with any of that. If you look at my images, because they all came from the same picture, the images themselves are actually all correct and the same size. So they should be roughly, because he's right, we'll say the tip of this goes to the shoulders. And yeah, see, I think I moved this picture. Let me double check that. Size 1.69, and this one 1. I don't know. For some reason. Oh, you know what it is? The character scale is different. Oh well. Anyway, so it's not 100% the same. So you can see here it's scaled a little bit differently, but we'll figure it out. You're probably gonna have to favor one to the other. All right, that's it. So we're gonna call that setup for now, and then in the next one, we're actually gonna get the character more or less positioned, scaled kind of correctly in comparison to my dude over here.